you for joining this special interview portion of our TDI program, where we have the opportunity to drill down in particular on one topic, namely sustainable industrial development and how to achieve it worldwide. Now, we have the opportunity now to go into a special conversation on how to ensure sustainable industrial development be a part of the economic recovery. And we have a conversation led by Dr. Joachim Lang. He's the Federation of German Industries Director General. The BDI is the host of this conference, and he will be leading this discussion with Yong, Director General of the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, or UNIDO. Dr. Lang, I will give the screen now to you.
Thank you, Sumi, and welcome to our conference. Poverty remains one of the major issues that needs to be tackled, and the corona pandemic has increased the situation for the first time in 20 years. So how can we help to reduce this gap?
You are correct. The issue of global poverty has worsened due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which disrupted global value chains, halt industrial production in many locations, and threatened the survival of many micro, small, medium enterprises, backbone of our economies in the world. And the forthcoming UNIDO Industrial Development Report 2022, addressing the future of industrialization in the post-pandemic world, finds that a minimum of 225 million people lost jobs worldwide, and it also estimates the global GDP fell by around 3.3%, and that 120 million additional people fell into poverty. The world recorded a decline of more than 40% of global foreign direct investment flows. Those are the sobering figures, numbers, and we are not out of the woods yet. Many developing countries have yet to receive their stocks of vaccines and face the risk of second and third wave. In this regard, we must ensure the vaccine production is further ramped up with a fair and a transparent distribution across the country. And that means the world. And I just following the recommendation of our sister agency, WHO. And we know that industrialization is a driving engine of the job creation and the social transformation. It has lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty in the history. It is no coincidence that countries become high-income countries without focusing on industrial policy, industrial development. Industrial development enables countries and their people to take charge of their own destiny through the enhanced productivity. In the process, enables increase in the values, wages, social mobility. As jobs are created, industrial development is an inclusive process benefiting groups such as women, young people, migrants, and the rural populations, help ensure that no one is left behind. So it is thus logical, and many governments and trade blocs have announced major industrial policy strategies focusing on the industrial development in recent years, that the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal recognizes industrial policy, industrial strategy, and their related investment, trade, or labor policies. Those are the very important feature of the country to move ahead with poverty reduction, economic growth also. That is the importance of the industrial development at this juncture. Thank you.
Thank you. And how does your organization, how does UNIDO help the member states to implement inclusive and sustainable industrial development?
Thank you for this question. UNIDO is only organization among UN family focusing on inclusive, sustainable industrial development. So we implement this mandate to our member countries for poverty reduction. In line with aims of Sustainable Development Goals, Goal 9, promoting inclusive, sustainable industrialization within this global framework, UNIDO advocates for the inclusive and sustainable industrial development. In short, is ISID, which addresses all the dimensions of sustainable development to support social equity, the social benefits, economic growth, environmental protection, and the strengthening of the knowledge and the institutions. The social dimensions of ISID is driven by the principle of leaving no one behind. ISID offers equal opportunity for all countries and all people, particularly women and youth, especially in developing countries. UNIDO's technical cooperation support is geared towards fostering structural transformation, particularly in countries that are at relatively low income level, thereby enhancing food security, stimulating economic growth, and reducing poverty in a sustainable manner. The sustainability dimension of ISID is implemented through the building integrated resource efficiency, cleaner production systems, and reducing the environmental impact of industrialization. Now we're carrying out decarbonization of industry while creating pathways to a circular economy. With expertise built up over decades of UNIDO, the organization plays a pivotal role in helping governments meet their decarbonization targets. As a part of the ISID dimension of economic growth and competitiveness, UNIDO's technical assistance harnessing technological change, digitalization, innovation as a means to create new market opportunities to reduce the digital divide between the developed and developing countries. The organization helps to build the business skills and foster a more entrepreneur-friendly environment. That means a sound environment for business. UNIDO's support seeks to create skilled jobs, enhancing the developmental impact of the private sector activities, and also supporting the integration of SMEs into national and global value chains through the quality and the standards. Finally, UNIDO also responds dramatically to changing global context. As highlighted in our 2020 annual report, UNIDO responded quickly in February 2020 to the pandemic and recalibrated its technical cooperation support to address or mitigate the most calamitous consequences of COVID-19 pandemic. This includes, for example, launch of COVID-19 Industrial Recovery Program, which provides emergency response assistance to support the government with restructuring of their industrial sector in the recovery period. And also detailed programs being carried out to support member countries in this respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's get to the developing countries. How can they profit from emerging technologies and innovation and create jobs?
This is a very important question related to UNIDO's core business to support developing countries connected to the new industrial revolution. Before addressing possible solutions, I just would like to mention the significant digital divide that exists already. This is a challenge for all of us. The UNIDO Industrial Development Report 2020 found that prior to COVID-19, just 10 economies in the world account for over 90% of patents and 70% of exports associated with advanced innovation. Meanwhile, the 88 developing countries have yet to tap in the fourth industrial revolution, which means lots of new technologies, either as producer or consumer of advanced technology. In this connection, developing countries are not short of talented innovators, entrepreneurs, or companies, but they often lack the financial support to realize their innovative potential and face structural barriers to entering the market, global market. UNIDO assists them to scale up their capacities through the technical assistance, policy guidance, standard setting, training, upskilling, and through the partnership initiatives. We have rolled out several interventions in developing countries in past years. For instance, we deployed blockchain to enhance the traceability and quality in cassava value chain in Ghana. Also, in Kenya, we're using Internet of Things, IoT, enhance the geothermal energy company for operations, for management. Another example is in Namibia, the harnessing satellite imaging. We have to fight bush encroachment and improve the food security in the country. In this context of COVID-19, we also use robotics to deliver essential supplies and medical goods to hospital workers in China. And one more example is that we help African countries in agriculture production using the drone system to monitor insects, irrigation, and doing the pesticides. We know that we can go further. Investment in digital infrastructure are vital. Statistics from our counterparts in ITU, International Telecommunication Union, shows that while 85% of Europeans have home internet access, it's quite common, that falls just to 14% in Africa, even less in rural Africa. The training and upscaling are also crucial, as the school children of today will work in the more digitalized labor market. Our learning and knowledge development facility we created for training provides the workers in developing countries with relevant skills to adapt and to become future-proof. And building capacities for MSMEs is especially important, as they make up over 90% of all firms, yet they often lack access to financing, digital skills, qualified employees, and dedicated support packages. Partnering and monitoring and mentoring are vital to enabling them to modernize their industrial operations. Another point is that technology transfer is also a vital mechanism to allow firms in developing countries to access advanced innovations. UNIDO's investment technology promotion network, including our office in Bonn, Germany, acts as a link between developing countries and technology providers in high-income countries to enable better market access. Those are just a few examples of UNIDO's operation support our member countries moving ahead with their agenda and new technologies. Thank you.
Thank you. You personally have a very strong background in finance. So now the pandemic has had a very negative impact on the world economy. So what do you recommend that governments must do to come back to sustainable recovery?
Thank you for mentioning my background. It is very important for government to take steps. Firstly, I believe that it is imperative that we accelerate vaccination efforts in developing countries. It is not sustainable that as of 2021, April 2021, the high-income countries had received 87% of vaccine stocks, while the least developed countries received just 0.2%. Of course, situation now become better, but still need lots of efforts. Vaccine nationalism and the hoarding of vaccines is a fertile endeavor. We cannot declare the pandemic over until every country and region is safe, and continue the international development cooperation, the enhancement of multilateralism, global solidarity, etc., continues to be essential. Our societies are built on international trade and mobility of people. And as long as the pandemic is not controlled, the virus will not stop at our borders. And business, manufacturing activities, mobility of people are blocked. Secondly, we must take what step we can to avoid such global disruption in future. It's a painful lesson for all the country, for global community. It will be vital to enhance global trust to allow cross-border production trade, because now we call it recover, sustainable greener recovery. The production and the trade cross-border is so important for all the countries, international community to come back. It is necessary to build a strong quality infrastructure in this connection. I just would like to emphasize this. Enhancing standards, implementing mutually understood certification, accreditation, building robust metrology. This is a unique expertise of UNIDO, supporting our countries with this important trade capacity building quality infrastructure. UNIDO has already published a new laboratory policy which promotes a good governance to positively and substantially contribute to the UN Sustainable Development Goals as envisaged by 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Thirdly, the policy measures are necessary to incentivize firms to repurposing their productive activities, to switch their manufacturing lines to produce critical COVID-19 supplies as a temporary solution in the crisis. This is something already done by the many countries. We help them to do this. This means that investment into R&D, technology upgrading, scaling, and reskilling are critical. And these are the instruments for developing countries to keep up with the pace of growth of new industrial revolution, like fourth industrial revolution. Developing countries also should have the aspiration and the confidence to be part of and to shape this revolution through a thriving dynamic segment of entrepreneurs in IT development, digital industries, biotechnologies, fintech, other related sectors at the forefront. SMEs, particularly those led by women, have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. Digitalization and the use of technology could help these small businesses to survive the economic downturn now and to build resilience continuously. However, greater efforts are needed to overcome the existing digital and gender gaps. Fourthly, we must also not squander some of the environmental benefits that have occurred due to the pandemic, which falls in carbon emissions, pollutions, and smog, promoting circular economy approaches, green innovations, nature-inspired and converging technologies, new materials, energy, and resource efficiency will be vital. Such practices are not simply good for the environment, but to make a good business sense to as consumers and processing industries are increasingly mindful about the environmental footprint of their consumption and production patterns. This is a kind of experience or lessons gained from our support to our member countries. So the sustainability of the industrial development is critical, and also global trade and manufacturing, cross-border support is so important for a country to come back.
Thank you very much, Director General. And with this, I give back to Sumi.
Thank you, Mr. Yong and Dr. Lang, for that conversation. We hope you enjoyed it as well. Don't forget to share your comments, your thoughts with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, all the usual social media channels, and use our hashtags TDI21 and Choicing the New. And if you enjoyed that interview conversation, we have another for you coming right up on the challenges facing NATO. So don't go away, and we'll be right back in just a moment.